Of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
On the weekend, the Indians honored the 1995 American League champions. The Magic returned with the first walk-off win of the season against the Tampa Bay Rays. Murphy sends a fly ball center field. Kiermaier steps up. Perez tags. He's coming home. Here's the throw to the plate. He is saved. He saved the ball, popped loose, and the Indians win it. The Tribe will try to build on that momentum as they begin a 3-game showdown against Miguel Cabrera and the Tigers, who have won 7 of 9 against the Tribe this season. But Trevor Bauer is undefeated against Detroit in his career, and he'll get the start next on Sports Time Ohio. Well, after some rain, it looks like it's going to set up for a beautiful evening in downtown Cleveland as the Indians welcome in the Detroit Tigers for a 3-game series. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. It's hard to believe because Detroit has done so well against the Tribe. They're 7-2 against Cleveland, but just a game over 500 on the season coming in. The Indians have to figure out what to do with Miguel Cabrera. He's reached base safely 35 of his last 37 games, so you know he's going to get on base. What they have to do is limit him from adding to his RBI total. He's driven in 17 already in the month of June.
Well, when you look at Cabrera, one of the best hitters in all of baseball, the Indians just haven't had a way to get him out consistently at all, really. As a matter of fact, what you have to do, I think, you have to keep the guys off base in front of Miguel Cabrera. You can see he scored 10 runs in the 9 games. Look, he has 5 home runs out and 10 against the rest of the league with 59 games. You take the Indians off, though, he's a mere mortal. But against the Indians, this guy, he just dominates, and he is one tough out against the Indians.
Trevor Bauer will be on the hill tonight for Cleveland, and Rick, in 10 of his 13 starts, he's given up 3 runs or less. But he's making his first start this year against the Tigers. What does he have to do in particular tonight?
Well, I like what Trevor Bauer does. He goes out there, he competes, he's got a good curveball, he moves his fastball around. He's pitched so well on the road this year. He has to improve back here at Progressive Field, and this is his first start. He's 2-0 against the Tigers in the career. He's made 5 starts, but the Indians are 2-3. He's going to be matched up against a left-hander, Kyle Ryan. It'll be the first time he's ever faced the Indians. He's had success against right-handed hitters. Only 2 starts. He's had a couple of appearances out of the bullpen as well. But again, Tigers coming with a left-hander against the Indians.
Biggest question for the Indians, walk him or pitch to him? What to do with Miguel Cabrera? Let's go down to Andre Knott. I'm sure fans have been debating this among themselves. What's the Indians' game plan?
The Indians' game plan most likely is to stick to how they've done things. You're right. This is a question that's been asked of Terry Francona, every pitcher, both the catchers that the Indians have, and they said, look, first of all, we have to pitch them better when we pitch to them. Terry Francona says, I'm not going to be stupid and just continue to pitch to him for no reason. He goes, but they have too many good hitters in their lineup for me just to give up and say we're going to walk them every single time. Then he says Victor Martinez is back. J.D. Martinez hits 3 home runs yesterday. And at some point in time, the thing that they have to do is stop letting these hitters extend their arms. Guys, whether it's been in Detroit or whether it's been here, we've watched the hitters from the Tigers just hit the fastball away to the opposite field. And Terry Francona says, look, I'm not telling any of my pitchers to hit anyone, but I'm telling them they have to get aggressive inside with the fastball, get these hitters uncomfortable, especially Cabrera, move his feet, and make him uncomfortable in that box, because that has not happened so far this season. Now, in talking to some of the guys today, they said if there's one guy that can get on the mound and make guys uncomfortable, it would be Trevor Bauer. He seems to be tone deaf sometimes to some of the things that are said to him by coaches and different people, but he's the one guy that doesn't care. And as Rick, you just said, he competes. So the Indians hope that he'll be the guy that competes and is willing to go out and make Trevor Bauer and Miguel Cabrera uncomfortable.
Well, look, it's a game of adjustments. The Indians pitching has not made the adjustments needed to pitch the Detroit Tigers. One thing they ought to try is keep the first 2 guys off base that's in front of Cabrera to start a game or during any inning. It seems like every time he comes to the plate, there's always a couple guys on, and that's not a good thing.
Well, I mean, the bottom line, as you said, is that at some point you are probably going to have to pitch to him, and the key is to make your pitches, compete better, and, try to keep the guys in front of him off so you're not in a situation where if you make a mistake, it's a 3-run mistake.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to him. You know, he drove in all 4 runs in a ball game against the Indians earlier this year, and that's what they have to avoid happening. And hey, maybe Trevor Bauer is the perfect guy to have as the tone setter in this series.
Well, let's hope so. Game 1 of the series, they need to win it, and they need to win a series at home.
The Indians have won 1 series opening game at home all season long. Hopefully that changes here tonight as they get this series underway against the Detroit Tigers. Brief delay at the outset. Looking at a 7:20 first pitch time. So while we wait for that, we're going to send you back to May of a year ago and take a look at a fantastic finish for the Cleveland Indians. Well, we're going to the bottom of the 10th. It's been a great night for Yan Gomes. Not only does he have the 3 hits, couple of runs scored, but aggressive base running led to the Indians taking the lead in the 7th inning. He went first to third on this base hit to left field.
Well, he had to be thinking that all the way, and he ends up scoring the go-ahead run on the sacrifice fly here by Aguilar. And stepped up his last time up, got another base hit. Really a good night for him. So you want to put a W on the board. Everybody will feel good about it.
Now for Detroit, Albuquerque is coming into the ballgame. Albuquerque on for the 22nd time, a win, no losses, in the ERA of 3.63. He's got the top of the order for Cleveland. It'll be Bourne, Cabrera, and Brantley. Michael Bourne takes it, up high, ball 1.
Albuquerque, you got last year. He has a very good foul.
by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. All right, here we go. Ready for baseball here at Progressive Field after the brief delay to get started. And we'll take a look at our window system's game time temperature. 74 degrees, just a very, very slight breeze blowing out towards center field. We did have a pretty good torrential storm here earlier, which caused the delay, which will be right around 10 minutes before it's all said and done. Trevor Bauer getting loose for the Tribe. Starting lineup for Detroit, brought to you by Toyota. Anthony Gose in the leadoff spot, followed by Ian Kinsler. Miguel Cabrera will bat third. Victor Martinez back in the lineup hitting cleanup. Yoenis Cespedes is fifth. J.D. Martinez coming off a whale of a game with 3 homers yesterday, batting sixth. James McCann, Andrew Romine, Jose Iglesias rounded out.
And tonight's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher will be Trevor Bauer. Bauer making his 14th start of the year. He's off to a fine start, 6-3, 3.22 ERA. This will be his first start against the Tigers this year. In his career, he's 2-0 against them. He has made 5 starts. So if Bauer doesn't get the win, it seems like the team loses because they're 2-3 in the 5 starts, and he has both wins. So we'll see how he fares against him tonight.
Detroit begins the night. Third place in the Central, 5.5 games off the pace. Tribe is fourth, 8 games back of front-running Kansas City. Both teams have struggled of late. Brad Ausmus, his club, they've lost 5 of their last 8, snapped a 4-game losing streak yesterday in New York. Ghost fouls the first pitch right back to the screen. The Indians have lost 5 of their last 9. Did get the win yesterday to avoid the sweep in the series finale against Tampa Bay. Tribe 32-36 overall on the year, just 14-21 at home. Ghost takes a look, just missed inside. Gary Cederstrom, the veteran crew chief, calling the balls and strikes tonight. You see he sets up over the inside corner. And a lot of umpires do that, and when they set up over the inside corner, it's tough to get a pitch that's not on the plate called a strike in there. The liner to left, caught by Mike Aviles for out number 1.
Well, let's check out that Indians defense, which is brought to you by Chrysler. In left field, we saw Mike Aviles just make that catch. Michael Brantley in center. Moss is over in right. Urshela at third. Lindor at short. Kipnis is at second. Santana at first. Roberto Perez doing the catching.
In addition to Gary Cederstrom, Eric Cooper, Lance Barksdale, and Quinn Walcott will work the bases here this evening. Ian Kinsler, batting just .263 overall on the year. Takes a look at a ball inside. Kinsler 0 for his last 8 and 2 for his last 16 overall. But he has a base hit by Urshela here. And a 1-out single in the first for Detroit. Keys to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture. What to do with Miggy? We've talked about that at length already on our pregame coverage. 5 is the magic number against the Tigers. We've talked about this before. You figure you're going to have to score 5 most nights to beat them.
Yeah, you do. I mean, we played them for years, and it just seems that's the way. This is a good offense, and they put 5 up on the board, at least against the Indians, every time we play. Or if you hold them to 4, you better win the game.
Here is Miguel Cabrera. He takes, and it's in there for a strike.
Cabrera, a hitter. He doesn't look at video. He sets pitchers up. He remembers. He's just one of those hitters that's been blessed from day one when he was a Florida Marlin. And another thing that, you know, people don't talk about, even though they have pitched him and they continue to pitch him away, this guy still finds a way to hit the ball out of the ballpark. You still have to hit the ball. And he squares it up and doesn't miss against the Indians.
Line drive, base hit into center field. And on his way to third goes Kinsler. Throw offline. Aggressive base running by Kinsler, and the Tigers have runners at the corners with one out here in the first.
Well, it was a nice play by Kinsler to hustle to get into third base. Brantley playing in center field tonight, and there's a fastball two-seamer coming in, and he takes it right. He never pulls the fastball. He never tries to, and Kinsler took a second peek at Brantley over there and gets in there safely.
So Victor Martinez will be the batter. Last time the Indians saw Detroit in the Motor City, Martinez was still on the disabled list. Victor batting just .228. But he did swing the bat pretty well yesterday against New York.
Well, he
was 3 for 6 with a home run and 4 runs batted in. What they'd love to see is a ground ball double play. He's hit into 7 of those on the year. It's up high, ball 1. Bauer missing up high, 2-0. Victor's one of those guys who has not he's not quite figured out the new rules with regards to staying in the batter's box after each pitch that you don't swing at. 2-0 delivery.
Yes, he did.
On the appeal, no, says third base umpire Quinn Walcott. And it's 3-0.
Well, I think they catch a break here. It certainly looked like it just from first look. Here's the side view. He went. That's simple. Plain to see that way.
Tigers with 2 hits already here in the first, threatening at the corners with 1 out. And Martinez in a 3-0 count swings and fouls it right back.
Well, you know he's going to take a hack at the 3-0 pitch looking for a fastball. He's not going to sit there and spot it, especially with a runner in scoring position.
Yeah, that's an indicator of Martinez and the time he's missed, because usually if he's sitting on a fastball and he gets it, he rarely misses. Now Perez calling for an off-speed pitch here. And Martinez a little flare to second or to short where Lindor has it, 2 down.
It's like it got inside on him a little bit. Was that a little slider, or it might have been a slider that got in on the hands? He couldn't get him out. Yeah. A little slide piece coming inside.
And
well, that's a good sign.
Yoenis Cespedes the batter.
Detroit has scored in the first inning in 6 of the 9 games played here so far against these two teams.
It's a big reason why the Indians have been outscored 23-12 in the first inning this year. A lot of it has to do with Detroit.
Yeah, that's right.
A little bit high for ball 1. Cespedes has 20 doubles on the year to go along with his 9 homers and 1 triple. There's a strike called to even the count.
Cespedes was the man hitting behind Cabrera while Victor Martinez was on the disabled list and did a nice job. When he was back there, he's at 300 on the year, 9 homers. As you mentioned, the 20 doubles, 36 RBIs.
He waved at it, and it's 1-2. A high pitch that he wanted to maybe stop on, but he was already too far into his swing to hold up.
Yeah, high fastball. Once you commit, you got to get after it. He wanted to hold up, but no. See if he can go up there again.
Breaking ball, and it's hit down the right field line. Slicing. Fair. Just inside the line. Bounces over Moss's head. Coming around third, Cabrera will try to score. Kipnis can't get a throw off. And it's a 2-out, 2-run triple for Yoenis Cespedes. The Tigers score first, lead it 2-0.
And that was a big spinner up there. He sliced it down the right field line. And for Cespedes, it'll be his second triple. Watch this hanger. Boy, it just stayed right there, middle of the plate. Detroit, number 1 in the league in triples. That's number 23 now on the year. And they strike. They get a big 2-out base hit. And a 2-out hit to give Detroit a 2-0 lead.
Terry Francona out to ask Gary Cederstrom if maybe did somebody interfere with the ball is all I can think of.
Or maybe hit the railing or something to make it a ground rule double. There's nobody down there to really affect it, I wouldn't think. In comes Cooper.
That's hey, if it hits above the yellow line and hit the railing, you got second and third,
right?
And only one run in,
right? That's the big. Here we go. We'll take a look at it. Looking for a railing or something. It did hit a railing up there.
Yeah.
They're going to go check it out now. They're going to review this. You know, in the ground rules that they go over before the game, it ricocheted after it hit the first railing and went over. Did it go above the yellow line? I don't know. I didn't see it long enough, but they go over the ground rules to see. Well, they couldn't have seen it from that dugout. They're in the first base side, but obviously they saw a replay.
Yeah, the question is, did it go above the yellow line on the bounce and hit something?
We didn't see the second hop off the first one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Off the side railing, it did hit, but it ricocheted, and don't know exactly where it went.
Yeah, the railings are in play. We know that. It's just a matter of, did it hit above the yellow line?
Well, it's funny. You have Cabrera standing right there out in front of the dugout waiting to go back if that's the case. Bauer getting loose. No matter. It's just a matter of waiting back in New York to see what happens.
All right, one more look from what we have, our
It's
best look.
definitely a fair ball. Now it goes up high and we lose it.
It had to have hit above the yellow line, unless it was suspended in midair and just dropped. Which I don't think happened. See, that's what happened, Rick. It hit something and then kicked over Moss's head. So I think the question is there an angle that shows that? Do you need that angle to make a reasonable judgment that the ball definitely went.
Well, they're going to have to see
above
it.
the yellow
They're
line.
certainly going to have to see it if they're going to, change the call and make it a ground rule double. They're going to have to see it hit something up there. But it's going to take a while here in the top half of the first. Either way you look at it, Detroit they're going to score in the first inning, whether it's 1 or whether it's 2, with the call on the field. And again, that'll be 7 out of the 10 games this year that Detroit has scored in the first inning against the Tribe. So that's just the toughest thing. It's right there, and it gets blocked out. But you can see where Moss, it really deflected off and shot out. So we'll have to wait and see. This is taking longer than normal.
All right, Gary Cederstrom, the crew chief. Looks like he's about ready to ditch the headsets. Eric Cooper, the first base umpire, was involved in the call down the right field line.
Cabrera's out there. He's been standing out there for 5 minutes.
You're going to put him back.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever they saw. So
they had a different angle, one that we weren't able to access, that showed the ball hit above that yellow line. So as soon as that happens, it's dead ball. Runners at second and third, a run in.
Well, that's
and
may not seem
now,
like much, but that's a break.
It could be a huge break. And now Mickey Callaway is going to go out to talk with Bauer. With J.D. Martinez up, you got first base open. Martinez coming off a day in which he had 3 home runs. And you've got James McCann on deck. Martinez has 16 homers this year. McCann has 2. This seems pretty straightforward to me. You don't pitch to Martinez even though it's only the first inning. Or at least you don't give him anything that he could remotely do damage with.
Well, that's the thing. You can't start pitching around guys in the first inning. First base is open. I totally understand that. You just don't throw a fastball down the middle and get ahead and for strike one. You're going to have to make some quality pitches.
That delay, by the way, was 4 minutes, 21 seconds on the review, which comes back in favor of the Indians here in the first inning. Three home runs and 6 runs batted in yesterday for Martinez. And it's ball 1, down low.
You know, here's another guy like Cabrera that likes the fastball out over the plate. He has a lot of his power to right field and right center field.
He's also in a stretch where he's picked up a hit in 13 out of 14 games.
Well, there you go. He's throwing a couple of breaking balls, so you can pretty much see they're just going to pitch around him.
He had an 11-game hitting streak earlier this year back in May. And now they'll just intentionally walk Martinez to load him up.
So Bauer having to work through a tough first inning.
James McCann will be the batter. Alex Avila is still on the disabled list. He's been down since May the 8th with a left knee injury. Breaking ball over the outside corner. First pitch strike. Bases loaded, 2 out on the first. Tigers leading a 1-0. And it's in the dirt, 1-1. Cabrera, Cespedes, and Martinez on the bases. The 1-1 to McCann. Right at Lindor. Had to go to the turf to field it cleanly. And a perfect flip to Kipnis to end the inning. Tigers get a run. Leave the bases loaded. Replay overturn helps the Tribe get out of the first. Down 1-0. They're coming to bat when we come back. Lineup under Terry Francona, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Jason Kipnis leading it off red hot on the year. 16-game hitting streak, 24 in a row at home. Francisco Lindor bats second. Michael Brantley is third. Then it's Ryan Rayburn, Carlos Santana, and Mike Aviles. Brandon Moss, Giovanni Urshela, and Roberto Perez rounded out.
And tonight's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher for the Tigers is Kyle Ryan. He is 1-1 and a .326. First time he's ever pitched against the Indians. And, he's made 2 starts. He's been out of the bullpen a couple of times. His last start against Cincinnati, 6 1/3 innings, 5 hits, and 4 runs. Threw 84 pitches in that game. Left-handers have hit better than right-handers have against him.
Jason Kipnis takes, and it's called a strike. Bounce foul up the first base side, 0-2. Stat of the game brought to you by Buick. 16-game hitting streak ties a career high for Kipnis. He's batting .386 during his tear. And a foul right back. Jason's hit in 25 in a row here at home. One ball, 2 strikes. Lays off, and it's 2-2. shattered the bat. And how about that
long
play?
arms.
Kind of batted it to himself.
Daddy long legs, man. He ended up getting the ball barehanded and just took it by himself, although he got deep into the kitchen of Jason Kipnis. Shattered his bat, and he sticks the bare hand out, and it just one-hops it into his glove and an easy flip. Pretty nice play by Ryan.
Up comes Francisco Lindor. And Kyle Ryan with a first pitch strike. Lindor 1 for 9 so far this year from the right side of the plate. Slow chopper. This could work out well. Romine can't come up with it. And it will be a one-out single for Lindor.
Do or die play. A lot of times you see that ball really hug the ground. And there was sometimes at third baseman, it's nice when you get the hop and you have a little air under it. He didn't have much here. He had to scrape the hand to the ground. It was on the ground and just didn't come up with it cleanly, so an infield single for Lindor.
One on, one out now for Michael Brantley.
That's good to know he's got that quick step-off move like that, because he was taking a step out when he wanted to get a little bit more on his lead, and he had the quick throw over there.
Michael Brantley coming off his first back-to-back hitless games of the season, and you have to go back to August of a year ago, the last time that happened. He takes, and it's a called strike. Brantley's been very good against the left-handers this year. He's batting .320, 32 hits in 100 at-bats against lefties. Against right-handers, 35 hits in 127 at-bats. Two home runs against lefties, 2 home runs against righties, RBIs. 18 against the lefties, 17 against the righties. Down and in. 1 ball, 1 strike. One nothing Tigers. We're in the bottom of the first. Just missed. And it's 2-1. With runners on base, Brantley's average shoots up to .339 on the year. Lindor keeping that big hole over there on the right side for him.
He's going to get a slider to try and hit it, too.
Fouls it back. They also give him, as you see there, a big hole on the left side of the infield. Brantley flips it fouled on the left side. On a play.
He does a decent job of holding the base runners on. He changes it. He'll hold the baseball on you. Been looking to see if there's anything you can pick up over there, and there's not a whole lot that I can see right now.
Lifted. Playable. Maybe. Romine makes the catch in front of the stands. 2 down.
Let's take a look at the Tigers' defense, which is brought to you by Chrysler. Cespedes in left, Ghost in center, J.D. Martinez in right, Romine at third, Glacius is at short, Kinsler at second, Cabrera at first, McCann doing the catching. Detroit rated number 1 in the league. Fewest errors, 32 on the year.
Throw to first, drives Lindor back.
This has been a sore spot for the Indians, not only on this homestand, especially against Tampa Bay. 2-out hitting. They were 1 for 24 against Tampa, and on the homestand, just 4 for 41. So they got to kick it in gear. You know how sometimes we talk about the 2-out base hits or a 2-out RBI, how it extends an inning, it can do something. That's something they haven't been able to do. Extend an inning and make a pitcher work very hard to get you out.
Outside, it's ball 1 as Ryan Rayburn tries to do some damage against his old club. His overall .310 average against left-handers, 13th best in the AL. Chop to third. Romine goes to second for the inning-ending force. After 1, it's the Tigers 1, the Indians nothing. Let's take a look back in the first inning. This was the replay angle that they used. If you look in the right portion of your screen, the upper right portion, you see the ball going above the yellow line and hitting out of play, and then it caroms back in. So that was the angle that said, okay.
Ball bounces over the fence, comes back, ground rule double. Yeah. And they made the right call. Very good.
Cost the Tigers at least a run in that inning. And now Trevor Bauer goes back to work. High pop over near the seats. Moss a long run.
Fair ball.
It is a fair ball. And it goes into the seats for yet another ground rule double.
Yeah, that came back down, and I'm telling you, it hit that little piece just after the grass, that rubberized track, and bounces into the seats where a fan grabs it. Moss couldn't get there. You talk about perfect placement.
Boy.
Romine gets his very first double. Look at that, right on the chalk. Bounces into the seat, another ground rule double. So they will have their second double of the game.
And Bauer back out of the stretch.
Yeah.
Jose Iglesias, the number 9 hitter. Looks at a strike. Hit that off of his foot.
Boy, I'll say.
That's 0-2.
Oh, Trevor went inside with a fastball trying to keep him from pushing the ball to the right side. He wants to get his runner over there, but if you're going to do it, he had to use those hands. And that two-seamer went straight down into his foot. What a job he's done against lefties this year.
In the dirt, blocked nicely by Perez.
You know, that's the funny thing. He's hitting 9th in this lineup. It's a great spot to hit it. Because when you think of their leadoff hitters, Anthony Gose, who's doing that, and Rajai Davis, who leads off, you're going to get pitches to hit. And your job is to do your job, like get the runner over if you can in this situation. But he's gotten a lot of base hits this year because they don't want to mess around and pitch around him.
Out of play to the right.
An excellent shortstop. We watched him make a couple of beautiful plays when we were in Detroit the last time. A double play they turned, he and Kinsler, that were, boy, it was second to none. That's a game where, do you remember they turned 4 double plays in that ball game against the Indians?
Shoots it out of play. Making Bauer work hard. Well, Iglesias, the guy, you remember he missed all of last year.
Yeah. Shin splints.
Boy, that bounced right in front of home plate. He probably didn't get your latest copy of the American Medical Journal.
Wait a minute. The tibial stress fractures?
Bilateral tibial stress fractures.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Underwood. I appreciate it. For me, it's shin splints. Okay.
How do you like that, huh? Slowly chopped to
He's
third.
Get his job done.
And Urshela went for the bare hand grab, but much like Romine, his counterpart, couldn't come up with it. And now the Tigers have first and third and nobody out.
Well, like they say, good things can happen when you put the ball in play, and it does right there for the Tigers. It's going to be a tough play for Urshela coming in. He would have gotten the job done anyway, getting the runner to third. And again, the same case that happened to the Tigers in the first inning. He can't get down low enough to pick up that ball. It's a do-or-die play. And it'll be first and third for the Tigers now, nobody out.
Well, and this is something we talked about before. When you have Miguel Cabrera and you're trying to figure out ways to deal with him, this is worst case scenario unfolding. You've got first and third, nobody out. Ghost, then Kinsler, then Cabrera. Ghost tried to bunt.
I think he tried to take that ball with him down the first baseline with Santana holding him on. I think if he would have made contact, he might have found the hole between first and second. He just didn't get the barrel head of the bat out in front. He started to take off out of the batter's box.
5 hits, first time through the order for Detroit. On the season, opposing hitters just 188 first time through the lineup against Bauer. And an inside corner called strike. It's 0-2.
Well, this is a stat that Bauer has improved so much on this year as compared to last year. You know, opposition average with runners on, it was 192 this year compared to 277 last year. With runners in scoring position down to 230 this year, it was 313 last year. So he's improved in a lot of different categories.
And the 0-2 to Gose. Runner at first takes off. Iglesias on the move, and it's slashed out of play.
How about that? Staying aggressive. 0-2 count. They start their runner, and Gose swings at the pitch. Obviously, he felt he's protecting. This is the cast of characters they can run with. Not necessarily Romine, who's on third, but with Iglesias, Gose, Kinsler. Those are your base stealing or base running threats.
This time the runner holds, and Gose
that's not
shallow
get it done.
Center field. In fact, it's going to be Aviles who makes the catch, tumbles to the turf, gets up and gets the throw off to keep Romine at third base. Lindor went out, and he was starting to peel back towards the line as Aviles came screaming in. And luckily they avoided contact, but Aviles had to tumble to the turf and hang on.
Because of the rain we had. Watch him slip.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the puddles? You see his foot? He slips. Actually, what Romine should have done is just go halfway down. He wasn't going to score anyway. You're not going to tag up if he does catch the ball. Go halfway. Because Kinsler, they're not going to send him. You're going to give a chance. There's nobody out. But it's the conditions, the playing conditions that made that one a little scary there. Aviles did a nice job, but he did a little hydroplane out there.
Now he backs up with the right-handed hitting Kinsler, who's a dead pull hitter. He's gone back to his old ways so far this year. At least since we saw him the first time. Remember that first series here in Cleveland? He was wearing right and right center field out.
Well, he still only has one home run. And you're right. That first series, it was like it was a different player. It wasn't the same guy. He turns into a dead pull hitter. The last time, we saw him in Detroit, he was trying to pull everything. But this is a guy who's never met a fastball he didn't like. He's got a pretty good eye at the plate. But a situation here, I don't know why you would want to pull when you can look for something out of the plate and just try and get that runner in from third base. Other times with nobody on base, go right ahead. You can revert back to yourself.
Well, we'll see if that indeed is what his approach is. Urshela, Lindor pinching toward each other on the left side of the infield to try to take that pull side hit away. Kipnis shading him up the middle. And Kinsler was showing a little squeeze piece right there, but
maybe bunting for a base hit.
No, Romine, he came darting down the line after he saw Kinsler square around.
Well, they have grounded into the most double plays in the league, 69 of them. Trevor Bauer looking for number 70.
Runner goes at first again. Iglesias off, and it's fouled out of play again. So they have been trying to force the issue in the inning.
They sure have. But when you're a hitter up there and you like the pitch, especially with a man on third, you have to get after it. You can't give that guy an opportunity to try and steal a base. So he picked on a high fastball and fouled it off. This may be a pitch that you would want to double up on and try and run, because I would think he's going to try and throw a breaking ball here. Get him to hit something on the ground. And he's already bounced a couple.
Iglesias holds, and the breaking ball is in the dirt. 2-2.
Good pitch to run on. See, that's what you think about when you're a base stealer. You think about counts and what he may throw in a certain count. You want to run on the breaking ball if you can.
Well, the last time he ran in the previous at-bat, he didn't run the second time.
Right, it was 0-2.
Right.
And he fouled it off, and that was almost like a sneak attack, element of surprise.
Broke the bat, grounded to short. Lindor to second. They get the out there, but that's it. 2 down, and the Tigers get another run. It's 2-0 Detroit.
Well, nothing you could do. I had a feeling he was going for the ground ball. And if you're going to do it, you got to throw that breaking ball. He's got a good curveball that he can get him to beat it in the ground.
T-Mobile game changer, Miguel Cabrera. Interesting thing to me, Rick, about Cabrera and the home runs. He's hit 5 home runs against the Indians. I went back and looked. The last 2 have both come on the first pitch.
Well, there's no pattern for him. And that the one that came off of Kluber in Detroit was after the hitter before him swung at the first pitch, if you remember it. And I said, be careful, because he doesn't care if he likes his pitch. He's swing.
He's going to get it, yeah.
You know, he'll swing. He doesn't care what happens before him or what happens after him. He knows in his at-bat, he's going to get after it if he likes it.
Well, Brad Ausmus is out stalling for time, and they're going to take a look at the force play at second now. They think that Iglesias beat the throw. Or maybe,
let's see.
What else did they potentially see here?
It would have to be maybe Kipnis pulling his foot if they don't.
Oh,
they may be right.
But, you know, that's that play. Remember, we talked about this with regards to if there's a runner bearing down on a fielder, they weren't going to hold the middle infielders to staying on the bag all the way through, correct?
I don't know about that. You were talking about last year when they had to show they were going to take the ball out of the glove.
This is one of those gray area deals because he didn't attempt to turn the double play, so maybe that's why they'll hold him to he had to keep his foot on the bag. What are we saying? What are we saying?
I don't know. He didn't say anything. Maybe they just wanted him to take a look. That wasn't a challenge, was it?
We have no idea. Why would we know? There's no information being exchanged here. I think Terry Francona wants to know, hey, what's going on exactly?
Maybe they just wanted him to take a look at it, and he did as an umpire review. I don't know.
You see Terry say, oh, okay.
Well, it doesn't matter. If he's out, he's out. That's what Terry wants. Well, we're left in the dark here. I don't know. It looked like his foot did come off the bag. He was a little quick on getting that front foot off, but guess what? He's still out.
We'll
this
be
game's
the last
starting off well, isn't it?
Here's Miguel Cabrera. And a pitch up and in to push him back off the plate. Breaking ball down low, 2-0. And it's a little bit upstairs, ball 3. So after a 3-0 count so far this year, Cabrera does not have a hit. He's 0 for 4 with 18 walks.
Okay, maybe 0 for 4 with 19 walks after this. He's looking for one right down the middle.
Swung on and missed.
And he got a breaking ball. He didn't get the fastball. He thought he was getting it.
Now it gets even better. This is, believe it or not, this is the best count in which you want to face Miguel Cabrera. Because after a 3-1 count this year, he's just 2 for 10, which is a 200 average, and 15 walks. Make it 16. Oh, look at him. Way he threw the bat away.
He's mad at himself for swinging at the 3-0 slider.
You think so?
Yep. Yes, I do. I don't think there was anything because of the walk. I just think he was upset he swung at a bad pitch. He should have walked the pitch before.
So 2 on, 2 out. And Victor Martinez, the batter, who hit a little flare to short his first time up. 2-0 Detroit, and Trevor Bauer's already closing in on 50 pitches in the game.
Well, he's been out of the stretch, it seems like, all game long. And we're only in the second inning, and he has, because he's given up 5 hits and 2 walks.
Sky-high pop foul out of play on the right side. The runner at second, Ian Kinsler. Miguel Cabrera's at first with 2 down and a run in. And Martinez is in the hole 0-2. Two on, 2 out, 0-2 pitch. A little bit inside.
Well, I like the idea here. You're trying to go inside, and if you miss, you have to miss in off the plate. Comeback fastball that Perez is trying to frame, but it was inside.
The 1-2. You can see Victor almost came out of his shoes jumping at that pitch. And a ball and 2 strikes the count with 2 on and 2 out here in the top of the second inning.
This ball game has no pace to it whatsoever.
In the dirt, 2-2.
I mean, you look at the fielders out there, how they're standing around, looking down, trying to kill some time, and now Perez wants to go talk to him.
Well, I understand, even despite the numbers, he's still a dangerous hitter, and you don't want to let this mushroom anymore. But as we pointed out, he's already 52 pitches into the game, and we're in the second inning. 7 batters went to the plate for Detroit in the first inning. Martinez, the 6th man to bat here in the second. Swing and a miss. He strikes him out. Bauer gets his first K. Tigers get another run. a replay for some reason that we're still not aware of, and it's 2-0 Detroit.
Along with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet, you can stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Carlos Santana takes down and in. 2 balls, no strikes. Santana awaits the 2-1. And he chops one to short. Iglesias throws him out, 1 down. Here's our Levin Furniture player profile on Kyle Ryan. He grew up right down the road from the Tigers spring training facility in Lakeland, Florida.
Well, there's nothing overpowering about him. He's about an 86, 87 mile an hour fastball. See a little breaking ball to it, but I haven't seen any great changeup or anything yet.
Grounded to second base, and Mike Aviles is quickly retired, 2 down. The injury report is brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Alex Avila already mentioned his left knee problem. Kyle Lobstein, starter on the DL. Joe Nathan, the closer. And a strike called. It's 1-1. Big deal for Kyle Ryan when he got called up to the big leagues last year because his mom, her family, she's one of 13, and the rest of that family all lives in the state of Michigan. Moss, a high pop to center. Indians quickly go 1-2-3 on 9 pitches. 2-0 Detroit after 2. Yoenis Cespedes, J.D. Martinez, and James McCann due for the Tigers. Detroit with 2 runs on 5 hits. They've already left 5 men on base through the first 2 frames. Down in the dirt. Yoenis Cespedes knocked in a run in the first. Originally, it was a 2-run triple. But Terry Francona asked the umpires to take a look at it. And after the review, they judged that the ball bounced on the track and then over the yellow line before coming back onto the field of play. So thus, a ground rule double, 1 run scored, and then Trevor Bauer got out of the inning without any further damage. So that review saved the Indians a run. Cespedes trying to plug the gap here, and he will. Deep right center. And gone. Cespedes with his 10th home run of the year, and he's driven in 2 of the 3 Tiger runs on the night.
Yeah, he got that ball down. Cespedes gave it a ride out here, a line drive. Shot out of here in a hurry to right center. Just above where their bullpen pitchers sit. So that'll be his 10th home run. And there's a down, middle of the plate. He gave it a ride. He dropped the barrel head of the bat right on it. And that's a quick one.
Chop slowly to third. Urshela charges. Off balance throw. And Santana able to keep the toe on the bag for out number 1. Nice play by Urshela.
Yeah, but he went in there with the glove. He didn't try to barehand it, which was good, and the throw to Santana in time.
Fastball in there for a strike to James McCann, who bounced into a fielder's choice his first time up. And again, just rearing back, throwing some heat. Chased a breaking ball in the dirt. 2 down. Second strikeout for Bauer.
Couple of heaters and comes back with a curveball. This will be our Circle K strikeout. He bounces it, and you can see not a very good swing there by McCann. So Bauer gets his second strikeout and the second out in the third inning.
Good pitch. Inside corner. Down low, couldn't get him to chase. There's a breaking ball, dropped in for a strike, ends the inning. Back-to-back Ks for Bauer. But another run for the Tigers. Yoenis Cespedes with a solo shot, and it's now 3-0 Detroit. Brought to you by Miller Lite. One hit so far for the Indians. Number 8 hitter is Giovanni Urshela. He'll be followed by Roberto Perez and then Jason Kipnis here in the third for Cleveland. Down 3-0. Urshela takes, it's a called strike. Ripped just foul up the third base side.
That did not miss by much. About a foot on the left side of third base.
Missed in off the dish, and it's 1-2. Low and away, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Rides 2-2 is low with the changeup. Full count. Urshela will try to get something started for the Indians here in the third. And the payoff pitch is punched the other way out of play.
Change up there, 82.
Back-to-back change-ups. And that's back out of play. Giovanni Urshela, Francisco Lindor. 2 of the young prospects for the Indians making their major league debuts and playing every day. Urshela draws a leadoff walk. Let's go back to that play one more time, Rick. The play that Detroit thought about issuing a challenge on. Lindor with the flip to Kipnis. And the way the rule states, as long as the umpire, in his determination, if Kipnis is coming off the bag to avoid a collision, to get out of the way of a runner, you cannot review that. If in the umpire's interpretation he was drawn off the bag because of a bad throw, then that would be reviewable. And again, we didn't get official necessarily, we didn't get a real good official explanation.
We didn't hear anything.
The assumption is that Brad Ausmus asked Gary Cederstrom if he could challenge that, and I think Gary Cederstrom went to maybe get it cleared up with HQ.
Oh, I gotcha.
And that's why he got on the headset.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, that particular play not reviewable. And that was done essentially to protect players. They didn't want to have the guys that think you have to stay on the base and get blown up every time a guy comes.
Well, it didn't look
train.
like Kipnis was going to turn it. That's what sort of surprised me. If you're not going to turn it, you're going to stay there. I would think you would have to stay on the base.
I don't think he knew that necessarily until
True.
he came off and looked and realized, okay, I don't have a play. Roberto Perez shoots it through the hole on the right side. Urshela will go to third. Perez, big turn. He's going to try for 2. He stumbled a little bit coming around the bag, but he's in safely with a double. Oh, yeah, gotta love the hustle by Roberto Perez. Right out of the box, he's thinking too. He knew J.D. Martinez had a long run to get to it. And now the Indians are set up to come right back here in the third inning.
Well, I like the hustle. You got to force the issue. He found the hole, and he realized it was going to go deep to the almost to the wall by the time Martinez could cut it off. Go ahead and make him make a good throw. He does, and guess what? He makes it with no problem. So there's a nice double, number 3, second and third, nobody out. So Indians with a chance to get right back in this one.
Here's Jason Kipnis. He hits one high in the air, deep right center field, and it one-hops the fence up against the wall. 2 will score. Kipnis into second base with a 2-run double, and the streak continues. 17 in a row overall, 26 straight here at home.
And how about that? He didn't waste any time. He jumped on that first pitch. Now going through the order for the second time or getting a chance to face it. We'll make this our McDonald's. I'm loving it. Got a fastball to his liking and ropes it into right center field. I thought the ball bounced over. It did not. It hit off the wall, stays in play, so 2 will score. 3-2 ball game, and still nobody out. First 3 have reached.
And Francisco Lindor will be the batter. As Kipnis continues his tear.
Yeah, he's been locked in for a month and a half, almost 2 months. It's been fun to watch because that was a fastball he got right down the middle. He hit it into right center field. A lot of the doubles we see Kip have go to left field down the line or left center.
Francisco Lindor showing bunt, gets it down, stays fair. Romine's throw to first in time. Kipnis, the tying run, is now 90 feet away on the sacrifice bunt by Lindor. Let's go down to Andre.
You know, with everything going on with Jason Kipnis and the hit streaks and everything else, talking to Terry Francona today, he goes, look, Kip plays with a confidence that we need this whole team to play with. He goes, I'm not telling guys to follow his lead, but he goes, I want guys to play with him. He goes, that's why he's playing so well, as he worked his butt off in the offseason, but now he's coming to the park every day thinking he's going to get 2 hits, finding a way to get 2 hits, and he goes, and the rest of the offense needs to follow that lead.
No doubt about it. He's healthy again, and he has a belief. He knows he's going to hit the ball hard somewhere.
Now Michael Brantley with the infield drawn in. And it's outside, ball 1. Brantley fouled out to third base his first time up. And the dirt blocked nicely by McCann. Kia in the driver's seat. Michael Brantley. Highest average against the Tigers since 1914. And he's up there with a couple of the Indians' all-time greats. Tris Speaker, George Burns. Just ahead of Dale Mitchell. Interestingly enough, Kipnis, one of his lowest career batting averages against the team is against these Tigers.
Yeah.
But that was a monster hit. Right back up the middle. Brantley shoots it into center field, and we are tied at 3. RBI number 36 for Brantley.
No, that didn't take long. They got a 3 spot on the board after Detroit scored in the first, second, and third inning. Back come the Indians on a walk. Back-to-back doubles, a sacrifice, and an RBI single by Brantley. I'll give him, he's been in a little RBI drop, but he gets his 36th there and ties the ball game up. Still just 1 out, and now the Indians with 4 hits. 3 of them in this inning.
And up comes Ryan Rayburn. You know the thing I love, too, about this inning? You look back at that first inning. Kipnis got jammed, broke his bat, little comebacker to the mound first time out. Brantley fouled out to third base, a little lazy
Foul
pop
territory.
up. Second time up, though, doesn't matter what they did their first time up. These guys are playing with the idea that that's ancient history, man, and they get up. This at bat is a different story, and they showed it in each of their approach.
And it was the first time they faced this guy, so they got a little idea where the...
Flip to second. They get one there. On to first. Another spectacular double play started by Iglesias and turned by Kinsler. That ends the inning, but the Indians strike for 3. We're tied after 3. 3 is our score as we go to the 4th inning. Take another look at Iglesias and how he turns this. I don't know how his arm doesn't come off when he makes this throw.
Well, you know what? He's just a very athletic kid. He just flips it there, and Kinsler got rid of it so quick that he was on the run too. They made a better one than that in Detroit, but I'll tell you, this kid's something special out there in the field. You got Omar Vizquel over at first base, his first base coach. That if you want to learn anything, he can certainly help you out.
Iglesias.
Yeah, they missed him last year. When he missed all that time, he had his shin splints. Boy, defensively, did they ever miss him? They got Castellanos over at third base, and defensively, he's a little iffy. But this guy certainly helps him out because of his range.
Oh, what a diving stop by Santana. High flip, Bauer beats him to the bag. Oh, a spectacular play to open the 4th. Santana with a diving stop on a ball that looked like it was by him, but somehow he nabbed it. He had to throw to Bauer on the run. It was a little bit high. Somehow Trevor reached back, snared it, and hit the bag ahead of Iglesias.
They may challenge that because I'll tell you what, it was a tremendous play. But watch, Bauer has to reach back for the ball. Does he get his foot down to beat him? It looked like Iglesias gets the back of the bag. Let's see. Get the back, get the front. He beats him. But that's what it looked like to me with the naked eye. And that's why he said, I'm not going anywhere because I beat him. See, he was caught in between, and I think he does get the foot down. This one may be overturned.
Third time we'll go to the replay
I know.
headsets today.
And you know what? Santana didn't lead him enough. And not that it's an easy play because he's on his knees trying to make a flip. But with Bauer, made a wonderful play to go behind him, catch the ball, and still try to get to the bag. But I think he was a hair late. Yeah, that'll go as an infield single. That didn't take long. Good all-around play. Good hustle by Iglesias to get down there. Nice stop by Santana. If anything, the throw's a little off, but he was sitting on the ground. He didn't have any legs underneath him, and you can see he does beat him to the base just by a hair. I love the reactions of players that when they think they've got a hit.
Anthony Gose. So, in years past, you'd have had Ausmus come out, we'd have had a rhubarb, we'd have had an argument, a tantrum, but he still would have been out.
That's true. That's the difference in the game now.
Now you just get a little histrionics, a replay review, and all is right with the world. Back-to-back singles for the Tigers. They have had Bauer out of the stretch all night long, except for the home run by Cespedes in the third, because then he was able to go right back to the windup, and he set him down 1-2-3 after that.
Look at Dave Clark come down and get his signs. He's almost in the batter's box. I thought he was the hitter. He came down and he got his signs to give him to the base runners now with Kinsler coming to the plate.
Maybe Dave wants to grab bat.
I don't know.
Thinks he's back at old Cleveland Stadium where he began his career with the Indians in the late 80s.
Never seen a third base coach down that far.
Down low. Kinsler singled and scored in the first. Drove in a run with a fielder's choice in the second. Indians bullpen about to get busy, as Bauer is closing in on 75 pitches here in the fourth inning. And I believe it is Jeff Manship who will be the first to loosen for Cleveland, as We see Roberto Perez go out to the mound to talk with Bauer.
He's just trying to stall for time right now to go say hello while Manship can get some pitches in. Because you're right, 8 hits already given up by Bauer. He's walked a couple, and we're in the 4th inning. They have had a boatload of base runners, and he has had to work a lot, very hard. These are stressful pitches in these innings. Boy, the best thing that could happen, I said, would a double play ball, so you got Cabrera on deck, but now he's down 3-0 to Kinsler. And if that happens, now you certainly don't have anywhere to go. That has been the case, it seems like, all year long. When the Indians have faced the Tigers, they haven't been able to keep the guys off base in front of Cabrera.
Walked him on 4 pitches. Oh, boy. Goes down to second. Iglesias over to third. And Miguel Cabrera, who singled his first time up, walked in the second to load the bases. And now he'll bat with the bags juiced here in the 4th.
Well, and even though Bauer has thrown 4 straight balls to Kinsler, don't give him a cookie. He'll be looking for it.
Well, what have we said? The last 2 home runs he's hit against the Indians have both come on first pitches.
Yes. He'll be sitting. He'll be this is already his 3rd at bat.
Checked on a pitch low.
See, that's the pitch he swung at 3-0 last at bat, and he was upset at himself. Remember, he threw his bat on the pitch, and he was locked in right there. He might have been sitting on that pitch. And you can see the numbers for this guy with the bases loaded. Best you can hope for, ground ball, double play. Hit it at one of your infielders.
Swung on and missed.
That wasn't his normal swing at a fastball there either, and it looked like Trevor really reached back to try and get a little more on it.
When he puts the 1-1 pitch in play, he's hitting at a .481 average. And the 1-1. Low. 2 balls and a strike. This is probably his best situation as a hitter. He's 8 for 16 when he swings at a 2-1 pitch. And a lot of this is because of what he's looking for, what he eliminates in his mind. The pitch he's sitting on. Oh, and a great location, a high fastball just above the belt, almost letter high. And Bauer able to sneak it by him. It's 2-2.
There you go. That was up and in. That was up a little bit and in. But the 2 pitches he swung and missed in this at-bat have been fastballs. So that tells me he may have been sitting on the slider. Now, does he make an adjustment?
Upstairs with a heater. Now a full count. A full count and nowhere to put him. Other than...
See, right now, Bauer doesn't agree with what Perez is calling. And I think Perez probably wanted to go with the slider, but I think Bauer wants to go with his fastball.
Other than when he's down 0-2, this is one of his lowest batting averages in a count on the full count at .273 on the year. Here's the payoff pitch. And it's in the dirt. Ball 4. And the Tigers take the lead 4-3. Iglesias will come home. Cabrera gets his 52nd RBI on the year.
Boy, and they respond in a hurry. The first 4 hitters reach back-to-back walks.
Still nobody out.
And they have a chance here to have a big inning. You're right, still nobody out. So 4 walks already in the first 4 innings by Bauer and 8 hits.
Victor Martinez has hit a little flare to short, and he struck out his last time up. And a foul right back. You look at the way the Tigers have played this year against the Indians and what they've done so far here tonight, putting pressure on every single inning. How in the world are they only a game over 500?
I have no idea. Well, you couldn't tell from playing us.
No.
It's hard to tell. Somebody's doing it.
The 0-1.
You know, when you look at the Tigers and you can see the numbers for Martinez with the bases loaded, that's why we figure you have to score 5, because they score at least 5 when they play us, if not more. There's been a number of times this year they've scored 8.
1-1 pitch. Upstairs, 2-1.
They scored 8, 9, 8. 8. So 4 times. Make it 5 times. They've scored 8.
Bauer ready with a 2-1. Good location again. That's that fastball. He threw that one by Cabrera in his at bat. He gets Martinez to foul it back here, and it's 2-2.
Upstairs. Looks good. Good swing on it, just a little too high for him to do anything to it.
Now the 2-2. Same pattern with Cabrera. He went up high, missed on the 2-2 with a high fastball. Now it's 3-2.
Yeah, it's not his night. 87 pitches in the 4th, 41 balls, 46 strikes.
Very well could be his last pitch of the night coming up here. The 3-2. Hammer to right field. Look out. Ghost scores. Kinsler scores. Cabrera lumbers into third. It's a 2-run single for Victor Martinez. The Tigers have scored 3 times here in the 4th, and they lead it 6-3.
Well, they answered the 3 spot the Indians put on, and they do it in convincing fashion. This hit's going to put Bauer out of his misery tonight. It's a high fastball. Check it out on our Nissan pitch tracker, and boom, single. Gets to the wall in right field. So 5 have reached. Nobody is out, and Bauer's night is over.
3 innings, 6 runs on 9 hits for Trevor Bauer. Struck out 3, but the walks definitely hurt him as well. Just was not his night. So the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen has been made for right-hander Jeff Manship, who will be coming on with nobody out here in the 4th inning and 2 men on base when we come back. 6-3. The Tigers lead it. They have runners at first and third, nobody out. And the new pitcher is Jeff Manship, making his second appearance of the year. And he'll be facing Yoenis Cespedes. A little bit outside, ball one.
This is Trevor Bauer's shortest start of the year. He went 3 2/3 innings in Seattle, or against Seattle.
Cespedes taking. It's a strike, 1-1. Mom always said there'd be days like this. One pitch. High fly ball. Left field. Back is Aviles. And makes the catch on the warning track. Cabrera will tag. He comes home to score. 4 in the fourth for Detroit. And it's 7-3, and that's the first out of the inning. Checks his swing, and it's a foul down the right side. High pop. That's going to get out of play as well.
And you can see just trying to shoot everything the other way with extension.
Fouled. Jeff Manship pitched collegiately at Notre Dame. And when he was with the Fighting Irish, his teammate was Jeff Samardzija. Not a bad 1-2 punch. 0-2 delivery. Fouled away. In 2006, Manship was a 14th round pick of the Minnesota Twins, while Samardzija was drafted by the Cubs in the 5th round. And a year later, Samardzija decided to pursue baseball instead of football because he was a heck of a wide receiver at Notre Dame on the football team. For Manship, he made it to the big leagues with Minnesota 3 years after he was drafted. He's also spent time with the Rockies and the Phillies. Swing and a miss. He gets a strikeout here. And there are 2 down as J.D. Martinez goes down hacking. Time now for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Hey, Matt, Rick, let's head down to St. Pete's where the Rays were up 3-0 on the Jays, but they used the homer to come back. It was 3-1 here. Jose Reyes, a solo shot. Then a solo shot by Deoner Navarro. And then just now in the top of the 6th, Jose Bautista, a solo shot. 4-1 Jays, Matt.
All right, thanks, Al. James McCann, he's 0 for 2 on the night. Takes up high, ball 1. To right field, Moss makes the head-high catch. And Manship retires 3 in a row. But the Tigers strike for 4 and lead it 7-3. Great clip of the game from yesterday. What a job. The man on your left, Cody Anderson, his major league debut. And he went out, pitched like a veteran.
Well, it was really fun to watch because you're right. On your major league debut, once he got rid of the nerves, I think, in the first inning, and he was throwing very hard, he settled in, trusted his stuff, and, boy, had to have a lot of fun out there.
7 2/3 innings, did not allow a run. And don't forget, the guy he was pitching against was perfect through the first 5 innings.
Yeah.
So he had no margin for error, and he matched him pitch for pitch.
Yeah, it was the first walk-off win coming in the bottom of the ninth for the Indians this year. But, yeah, it was fun to watch him come out, and he had to be thrilled with it. His folks were in town able to watch it. So that's going to earn him another start in Baltimore.
St. Vitus up there wanted me to tell you that Cody had 14 outs on 3 pitches or less. Carlos Santana with a leadoff single. Did I just get suspended?
You got suspended for an inning card. An inning misconduct.
That's going to bring up Mike Aviles as once again the Indians will try to fight their way back. They were down 3-0.
Look,
and scored 3 in the third.
Get into that Tiger bullpen. You never know. And this guy is not overmatched. The second time through, they're really doing a nice job. They have 3 hits out of 4 batters. Sacrifice in there as well.
Mike Aviles, a ground out his first time up.
You know, Tommy also said, over the last 3 years, 13, 14, and 15, Detroit is 33-14 against the Tribe. But 30 games, they've scored 5 or more runs. That's why we say you have to score 5 to beat them. And they're 27-3 when they get to that point. So there comes a time where you have to outslug them because you certainly can't control them. And this is going to be one of those nights.
Yeah.
So if you can get this starter out here, Kyle Ryan, get into that bullpen, you never know. Yeah, it's a 31st game out of the last 48 where the Tigers have scored 5 runs. That's why I said tongue-in-cheek today, you better throw those scouting reports out because, they're not working. No. You got to make a change. You got to try something different.
Mike Aviles awaits the 3-1 pitch. And it's in there for a strike. Full count. Detroit's bullpen springing into action. This is only going to be the 50th pitch of the night. Broke his bat. Iglesias waited back on it to get one, but they can't turn two. You know, it might simply be a case where, look, Detroit hasn't been playing all that well of late. They lost 5 out of 8 coming in, snapped a 4-game skid yesterday. They've got 7 on the board early, and Brad Ausmus, after seeing the Indians strike quickly for 3 last inning, does not want to let the Indians creep back into this thing. So if he has to pull the plug on Kyle Ryan early, he's going to do it.
No question. No question. That's why I'd love to see a long ball right here. Moss needs to get himself going. He's been in a bad rut. He flied out deep to center his first time up, but he can strike quickly. You know how guys are.
For Brandon Moss, his last home run, ironically, came against Detroit 1 week ago tonight. And a pitch is outside, 2-0. Aviles leads at first. Moss yanks one to right. J.D. Martinez makes the catch. 2 down. The second annual Velasano Bike Ride for Cancer Research coming up July 17th through the 19th. 6 different routes, 1 and 2 day rides. Every dollar raised by Velasano participants benefits cancer research at Cleveland Clinic. Bike to Cure. And get online at velasano.org to learn more. Giovanni Urshela rips a single into left field. He jumped on the first pitch. And now the Indians have 2 on with 2 out for Roberto Perez.
Well, Urshela got the last inning started when he had a battle and he had a leadoff walk. Comes right back up, and he's seeing the ball well, so he gets a base hit. Perez followed that with a double to get that inning going. So they have runners at first and second, but there are 2 outs.
Now Roberto Perez, he doubled and scored his last time up. He had a line drive to right field. His first time up in the third. Down on the dirt, ball 1. The 1-0 pitch. Fouled off. Let's go down to Andre, who has an update on Yan Gomes.
The latest with Yan Gomes is Terry Francona is just being very precautious with him. He says, look, he shouldn't have played him a couple days ago when Corey Kluber was on the mound. It's very reminiscent of when he played Michael Brantley during the home opener for the Indians. He says he's going to give him a couple more days. Should be okay. They've had it checked out. He structurally is fine with his neck. It's just stiff, and he hasn't been able to get past it, and didn't help him playing on Saturday because he's been stiff since. But he was better today when he came in. So it's no guarantee he'll catch tomorrow, but he'll be back in the lineup at the end of the week.
Doesn't it always happen? The guy tells you, yeah, I want to go. And I'm sure he wanted to get out there because of Corey Kluber was pitching. And it sets you back a couple days. That's what you try to stay away from.
1-1 pitch. That's why sometimes the role of the trainer is to protect the player from himself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes as a player,
Yeah.
you only know one thing.
Yeah.
I want to play.
I feel okay.
Yeah.
I want to play, and then all of a sudden something happens where you got to give it your real all when the game starts, and it's different. And usually a manager will say, all right, you feel good? All right, I'll give you another day.
Yeah.
Sometimes two.
2-1 pitch to Roberto Perez. Down and in, 3 balls and a strike. Hey, by the way, Wayne Walton is celebrating his 90th birthday tonight in Sycamore, Ohio. I'm told he never misses a game on TV.
Well, Wayne, happy birthday. Hopefully we have a comeback for you here, and you can save those candles. Blow them out later.
Roberto Perez in a good spot here, 3-1 with 2 on, 2 out. Kyle Ryan laboring a little bit in this inning with action in the bullpen behind him. The 3-1. And a foul off, full count. Blaine Hardy, he's ready to go. He's been up throwing pretty much the whole inning. You kind of get the feeling, Rick, that if Ryan does not get Perez,
oh, yeah,
that's going to be it for him.
I certainly believe he's in there for Kippy, no question.
Runners will be off with the payoff pitch. It's ball 4, and the bases are loaded. And here comes Brad Ausmus like he was shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, well, they had a quick inning, a big 3-run inning, and after Detroit comes back and had a response for him, he's not waiting for anything. He wants to get out of this jam right here, and he's going to call on Hardy to do it.
Neither starter lasts long tonight. And so we've got a timeout with the bases loaded and 2 down in the 4th, and the Indians down 4. Time now for our AT&T U-verse Rewind. Jason Kipnis last time up with a 2-run double. That extended his hitting streak to 17 games and 26 at home.
Well, he's going to have an opportunity now. Base hit can cut into that lead. That's what the Indians need right here. A nice 2-out base hit.
Blaine Hardy, left-hander on.
Plenty of time left in this game. That's what we needed. We need a slugfest. We've had them here against Detroit before. I remember, what was it, a 12-11 game? It was in June. It was in June of 2007.
Kipnis with a good pitch to hit, and he rips it foul right back. Mike Aviles is at third. Giovanni Urshela at second. Roberto Perez down at first. Blaine Hardy delivers. And Kipnis sends a fly ball to right. Martinez has to come in and make the basket catch to end the inning. 7-3 Tigers after 4. Brought to you by your Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. It's a 7-3 Tigers lead. Fifth inning, Andrew Romine, Jose Iglesias, and Anthony Gose will bat for Detroit. Jeff Manship retired all three that he faced to end the fourth inning, stays on to pitch here in the fifth. One pitch. Close play, but one out. Our in-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. Yoenis Cespedes with a solo shot in the third made it 3-0 Detroit. They scored one in the first, one in the second, one in the third. Jason Kipnis brought the Indians right back in the third inning. His two-run double, followed by Michael Brantley's RBI single, tied the game at 3. But Detroit came right back with 4 in the fourth. And they lead it now 7-3. Jose Iglesias taking all the way. It's a strike. Weak bouncer right back to the mound, and Manship will flip it over. 2 quick outs. Top of the order, and Anthony Gose. Liner. Oh, what a diving catch made by Francisco Lindor. He went in the hole and robbed him of a base hit to end the 5th inning. (7-3) Detroit. Francisco Lindor will lead off the bottom of the 5th for Cleveland.
Of course he will, after making a fine diving catch.
Lindor sends one to center field. Anthony goes back. 1 away. Tomorrow night here at Progressive Field, Game 2. And David Price will go for Detroit against Danny Salazar. Alan Jensen kick off our coverage at 6:30 with Indians Live. And then every pitch right here starting at 7 on Sports Time Ohio. Dynamite matchup there. Won't find many better than that one. Michael Brantley takes a strike. Brantley drove in a run on the 3rd, and that tied the game. Down in the dirt. Philadelphia tattooing the Yankees tonight, 10-5. That's news because Philadelphia hasn't done that to many people all season long.
Oh, you're right, with 14 hits.
Strike 3 called. Brantley is rung up, 2 down. That's the first strikeout of the night for an Indians batter. And I don't know.
Yeah, it was an off-speed pitch away. Michael thought it was away. For Hardy, this is the 6th time he has appeared against the Indians this year. He's 0-1. He's pitched 6 innings, given up 5 hits and 5 earned runs before tonight.
Ryan Rayburn taking a called strike. Missed inside. Blaine Hardy, since coming into the game, has thrown 11 pitches, 8 of those for strikes. And Rayburn hammers it foul.
Heads up, Mike Saraball.
And a foul by Rayburn. 1 ball, 2 strikes. You know, you go back to the start of 2013, and just here in Cleveland, the Tigers have gone 18-5 against the Indians.
Well, it's been a tough go.
You know, it's one of those deals where you play your rival. Okay, it's one thing you get your hat handed to you when you go to their place, but when they come to your place.
A few years ago, or maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it used to be, okay, Indians would win here, and then, you know, the Tigers would win, but it's changed. They dominate in both places.
Rayburn reached for it, bounces it to third, and Romine throws him out. The Indians are retired 1-2-3 for the second time tonight. It's officially summer and time to get out there and hit the links. Find out how to improve your game with Jimmy Hanlon on an all-new edition of the Swing Clinic coming up tonight following Indians Live on Sports Time Ohio.
That's what I need, Jimmy, a little swing clinic.
Got a little hitch in your giddy-up?
Yeah, it's called lack of playing.
Ian Kinsler has singled, walked, driven in a run, and he has scored 2. Back out of play. Kinsler drives one deep down the right field line, slicing, foul in the corner.
It's the first one that's gone foul tonight for him. They had a couple that just hit chalk earlier in the game. Cespedes, his first double. And then was it Romine who placed it in there perfectly as well. I thought this one, well, the way it's going, it'll hit the line, but it doesn't. It slices foul for a strike.
Kinsler plugs the hole, goes to right field with a line drive. Tenth hit of the night for Detroit. This was the play in the first inning. Yoenis Cespedes doubled, and the ball came up, hit above the yellow line. So it was originally a 2-run triple, but after review, an RBI double saved a run for the Indians. And then in the second inning, Andrew Romine popped one down the right field line, and it literally hit right on the line for a double. And he came around to score.
Well, that's the 10th hit now for the Tigers.
First allowed by Manship after he retired the first 6 in a row out of the bullpen. You got Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, and Yoenis Cespedes here in the 6th. Indians still have not retired Cabrera. Tonight he is singled and walked twice. Once with the bases loaded to drive in a run, and he has scored one. Hit hard to third. Urshela to second to 1. On to first, double play.
There you go. An Adam ball for once. He hit one at him. They turn the double play. Just what you were looking for. Urshela gives a nice feed. You got all day long with him running down the line. There it is. Easy double play.
And we'll take a look at Victor Martinez, who drove in a couple of runs in the 4th. That was a backbreaker. Right after the Miguel Cabrera bases loaded walk gave Detroit a 4-3 lead. Martinez drove in 2 with a single. That ended the night for Bauer. Made it 6-3. Then a sac fly by Cespedes made it 7-3. Good pitch.
It looked good.
Wow. Breaking ball. It probably a strike 99 times out of 100. Into the shift, Kipnis from the outfield grass. We'll throw him out on 8 pitches. Manship retires the Tigers thanks to the double play ball. Middle of the 6th, 7-3 Detroit. Seven-3. Bottom of the 6th inning. Carlos Santana, Mike Aviles, Brandon Moss, 5, 6, and 7 due for Cleveland. Blaine Hardy has retired all 4 that he has faced. And Santana fouls at third base side. Big curveball. And it's called a strike. Foul off to the right.
Little changeup. He said, I don't want that. Wanted to go fastball in. He didn't want that. See if he starts fastball away. Oh, now come back with the curveball. Well, he's the one that wanted to throw it. Catcher didn't want it.
Nobody to blame but himself.
That's right. Wilson up, getting loose.
Grounded to short. And Iglesias, high throw, but Santana retired one away. Mike Aviles 0 for 2. He is grounded to second. He also bounced into a fielder's choice in the fourth. Popped up out of play. Rick, in that game on which the Phillies are hammering the Yankees tonight 10-5, Maikel Franco of the Phillies has gone 4 for 4 with 5 runs batted in.
Wow.
That's a night, huh?
Yes, it is. He may get another at-bat.
He's hit 2 home runs in the game. Oh, my. Aviles hit it right on the button, and Romine was there to grab it. 2 down.
Well, you notice he corrals it. His other hand comes up. That ball hit right on the nose. He didn't have time. That's just a reaction right there. But he was right into the tracks. It's a double if it gets by him, and that's
6 in a row.
Number 2, yeah.
Set down by Hardy. Brandon Moss is 0 for 2. And he pops one up sky high. And it's caught by Kinsler. And the inning is over. brought to you by Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. 7-3 Detroit as we roll on to the 7th inning. Well, Brian Shaw's got a tough act to follow because Jeff Manship went 3 innings. He threw 25 pitches and 20 for strikes.
Wow.
He only gave up 1 hit, struck out a batter.
Yeah, but after that hit, he came back and got the double play ball to lead off last inning. So he really did a nice job coming in. Of relief of Trevor Bauer.
Yoenis Cespedes, J.D. Martinez, James McCann due up here in the 7th for Detroit. Another divisional matchup tonight features Minnesota hosting Chicago. The Twins lead that game 6-2. Uncharacteristically, the Twins have used the long ball tonight. We'll have some highlights in that one coming up. Yoenis Cespedes. He's had a big night. He's driven in a run with every at-bat. The double in the first, homered in the third, and the sac fly in the fourth. So he now has 39 runs batted in on the year. High, 1-1. Off the end of the bat foul, and that's going to find the seats. Oh, and Cespedes got hit.
That was the breaking ball that he hung on to.
Or did he?
Yeah, he got hit. He was trying to get out of the way. He just could not.
Take another look here as Cespedes.
It's going to be a breaking ball, and you watch. He just couldn't do it. Sort of like the back of the arm, it looked like, as he was ducking out of the way. So they get their leadoff man aboard here in the 7th.
And J.D. Martinez 0 for 2 to the plate. Oh, he was sitting on a first pitch fastball and he got it, but fouled it right back. J.D. was intentionally walked to load the bases in the first, and that enabled Trevor Bauer to get out of it when he got James McCann. He struck out on the third, fly to right to end the fourth. And now the count is 1-1. Coming off the first multi-home run game of his career yesterday when he hit 3 in New York.
Boy, he would be made for that park, that short right field porch there. The way he likes to shoot the ball that way.
It's the 23rd time since 1914 that a Tigers player has hit 3 homers in a game. The last to do it was Miguel Cabrera. And believe it or not, it was 2 years ago. Here's what's really interesting, though, about J.D.'s feat yesterday. He's the first visiting player to hit 3 home runs at Yankee Stadium and the first Tiger to hit 3 homers against the Yankees since Charlie Maxwell in 1959. Yeah. And that was at Briggs Stadium.
A day to remember.
Kind of forget, Yankee Stadium's only a few years old, the new version. Time now for a Mazda game break. Here's Al.
Okay, Matt, you were talking about that Minnesota game. The Twins were down 2-1 in the bottom of the 4th inning. They scored 5 runs, and Eduardo Nunez caps it off with his second homer of the year. A 2-run shot. Now it's 6-2 Minnesota. 6th inning at Target Field, Matt.
Yeah, Joe Mauer is also homered in that game for Minnesota. He has 4 on the year, so he doesn't hit many.
No, he does not. His first one was a game winner.
Upstairs, it's ball 1. McCann a little late. A little tardy on the heater, 1-1. Yoenis Cespedes, the runner at first. Whew. Just missed with a fastball, 2-1.
Well, a teaser that he didn't swing at. Boy, you can see it's just a little bit off the dish. Like the pitch, though. I guess you take that pitch because you really can't hit it. I bet you throw that same pitch now with 2 strikes, he'll probably swing at it.
The 2-2. And it's out of play. Each team has left 6 men on base, but Detroit took advantage in the 4th inning when the first 5 all reached safely and 4 of them scored. Up high, full count. Detroit left them loaded in the first, left 2 on in the second, but only 1 stranded since then. Indians left them loaded in the 4th. And that's ball 4. So he's hit a batter, he's struck 1 out, and now he's walked a batter.
Well, that's the 5th walk. Bauer walked 4. As you said, it would be a tough act to follow. Manship at 25 pitches, 20 strikes. He came in, was dealing.
So Romine digs in. Showed bunt, but pulled it back, took a strike.
Everybody straight away for Romine.
And the count is 0-2. Wow. Just pure gasoline.
Yeah, they wasted no time.
Second strikeout for Shaw. And there are 2 down in the inning for Jose Iglesias.
Yeah, he just overpowered him in this at-bat. He was tardy on his last 2 swings on the fastball. Looks like Webb up and throwing in the Indians bullpen. Wilson still going for the Tigers.
And Iglesias takes strike 1. He has 2 singles in the ballgame, both of them infield hits. Too tall, 1-1. And that's over the top of the dugout into the seats. Two on, 2 out. Shaw's 1-2 pitch. The big chopper to Santana. Shaw will have to beat him over there to the bag, and he will to end the inning. No runs, no hits, 2 men left. We reach the 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, is coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Bottom of the 7th inning. And the third pitcher of the night for Detroit is Alex Wilson. Last 5 times out, he's pitched a total of 6 innings, and he's given up just 1 run. He came with Yoenis Cespedes and Gabe Spire in the Rick Porcello deal this past offseason. Giovanni Urshela walked and scored in the third. He singled in the fourth. Shoots it foul on the right side. Well, quick pitch, and it's fouled back. That was interesting. That quick pitch was interesting because you could see the catcher. He wasn't ready for it. He had to quickly get into position. The umpire had to duck down quickly. I guess that's not a signal. It's just he just does it whenever he feels like it.
Well, sure. You know who else did that was the Shaw. We saw one time do it. I mean, you do it when you think you're going to catch the hitter. This is also the 4th time that Wilson has pitched against the Indians this year, covering 5 innings, giving up 4 hits and an earned run to him.
From Hurricane, West Virginia.
Nothing really happened. The Indians had a chance to get back into it in the 4th. They left the...
Iglesias misplays one, had it kick off of his chest as it rolled up his glove. And Urshela's aboard to start the 7th for Cleveland.
Now, only the 33rd error by the Tigers, and they were the best team in the league when it comes to defense. But watch the hop. Caught him on the heel of the glove. Didn't catch it cleanly, so, boy, you'd love to make it pay. That's the leadoff man.
And Roberto Perez doubled and scored in the third, walked his last time up. Chopped to short. Iglesias, quick flip to Kinsler. Double play.
Well, he picks up his defense. He comes right back, gives the man an opportunity who made the error make up for it. And it's just an easy flip over to Kinsler. So another double play turned by the Tigers. Watch how quickly. Boom. Give it up.
So 2 down and Jason Kipnis to the plate. Kipnis drove in 2 in the third with a double. He now has 30 runs driven in on the year. Well, you have to go back to Robbie Alomar's 18-game hitting streak of 2000 to find a longer one than Kipnis' 17-gamer this year. 1-1. And a foul back. Hard hit smash into center field. Kinsler gave it a diving effort but could not get to it.
That ball was smoke.
And boy, was it ever. And Jason Kipnis with a 2-hit game. He's had a bunch of those this year as well.
He got, I don't know if it was a cutter or they wanted to go inside with a little breaking ball, but I'll tell you what, he kept his hands back, and when a guy dives for it and it just shoots by after that first hit, that had some great topspin to it. He hammered that ball.
That's his 27th game with multiple hits.
Yeah.
Only Prince Fielder has more at 28. He's got one more.
I'm telling you, this guy's on a roll. He's looking at 200 hits. If he can stay healthy this year. The way he's swinging the bat, he's been very impressive.
Little over a week to go here in the month of June. And Kipnis has 24 hits.
24 hits in the month of June?
Just think about this. Said 24 hits. You still got a week to go. 9 days, right? 7, what are there?
30.
So you got, yeah.
Well, remember when we said
51 hits in May.
That's what I was going to say. Remember we said that, and you say, well,
he's having a great month.
30 hits in a month is good. And people we were talking about 50. I said, that's outrageous.
It really
in a month
puts it into perspective.
Because if you get hot and you have nobody else hitting, which he does not, as far as the lineup goes, you figure teams are going to pitch around him because he's the guy. But if nobody's on in front of him, they pitch to him. He's been wearing out teams.
He's batting .369 in the month of June.
Yeah, and it's an off month compared to May.
Wow.
That puts the month of May in perspective. You're right.
Lindor fouls it off. Kipnis was running on the pitch. Lindor awaits the 1-2. And a foul back. Well, Alex Wilson has thrown 16 pitches in the inning, 14 strikes. Got the double play ball off the bat of Perez. Kipnis singled. Now he's battling Lindor, who keeps fouling pitches off to stay alive. And that one is hung on to, and the inning is over. 7 complete, 7-3 Detroit. By authority of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. (7-3) Detroit as we head to the 8th inning. Ryan Webb will be the new pitcher for the Indians. Webb on for the 17th time this year. And he's got the top of the order for the Tigers. Anthony Gose, Ian Kinsler, and Miguel Cabrera. Good sinker. And Gose swung right over the top of it. Anthony Gose is about as aggressive a hitter as you will see in terms of he gets up there. If it's close, he's going to swing.
Especially if it's a fastball.
Down and in. 1-1. Foul back, 1 ball, 2 strikes. 11 is a popular theme for Gose. He has 11 runs batted in, 11 doubles, and 11 stolen bases on the year. They gave up a very good young player to get him.
Yes, they did.
And I guess only time will tell how that deal works out. Haven't checked lately. Is Travis back?
It's been, I don't think so.
No, he was hurt for a while with Toronto.
Yeah, he was his shoulder issues. I don't think he's been back, not that I've heard.
1 down for Ian Kinsler.
Goins was doing a nice job filling in for him.
Well, Toronto leads Tampa Bay tonight 8-5 down in St. Pete. They're in the 8th inning.
Yeah,
cut into the lead. Blue Jays were only 3 back of Tampa in the East, even though they were in 4th place when the day began.
Yeah, that's with an 11-game winning streak. Remember that brought him back into play.
That's true.
And Travis, the guy you were talking about, is still on the disabled list. Yeah, he's been there since May 17th with shoulder issues.
Toronto had lost 2 straight after that 11-game binge. Kansas City just underway out in Seattle, where the Mariners begin the night 6 games below the break-even mark. Kansas City 12 games over 500 and leading the Central by 3.5 over Minnesota. Twins are beating up the White Sox 9-2 now in the 6th inning. There's a strike. It's 2-1. That's a weird one. The White Sox have actually out-hit Minnesota 10-9 in the game. But the Twins are winning 9-2. To center field, Brantley. 2 down. Let's go down to Andre, who has more on Miguel Cabrera, and now with Victor Martinez back in the lineup behind him in the order.
Yes, for all the talk that we hear about Miguel Cabrera, today Terry Francona talked about Victor Martinez and said he's the ultimate hitter to hit behind Cabrera, compared it to the matchup of having Manny Ramirez in Boston at the time and Big Papi. He said no matter how you put these guys, they protect each other so well. But he said with Victor, because he's a switch hitter, because he has a great eye, And because he knows how to work a pitcher, he goes, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble worried about Cabrera not going to him. He just thinks they're the perfect complement for each other because you can flip-flop them and hit them any which way, and you're going to have problems throughout the evening.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Well, and Victor, so far, and granted, he could still get himself going, but he's a shadow of what he was a year ago so far this year.
The knee issues. He couldn't hit from the left hand. Look at that. Just another hit for Cabrera. He
smashes it on one hop by Kipnis into right field. 2-out single keeps the inning going. So Cabrera with 2 hits, Kipnis with 2 hits, and it looks like Cabrera will stay just ahead of Kipnis.
There you see a little ball going the other way.
In the AL batting race.
$11 hits now for the Tigers.
But point being, though, with Victor is right now he's a shadow of what he was a year.
Right.
If he can get that knee back into some semblance of shape and get going by the second half of the season, then you've got that very dangerous 1-2 punch.
Oh, yeah. You know what? If he's healthy and that knee gets back, he will get back to it. He's such a good hitter because you're going to be forced to have to pitch to him with Cabrera. But, you know, when we watched him earlier, boy, he couldn't even turn on that back knee. Never hit a home run from the left side of the plate.
Well, and you got Cespedes, who's batted .300 on the year coming in, and he's driven in 3 runs tonight. J.D. Martinez with 16 home runs bats behind Cespedes.
Well, they have a good lineup. You got to get somebody out. You got to go at the guys. These guys are going to get them. The key is keep them off base in front of them.
Well, that's what hurt Bauer early. Romine and Iglesias combined for 3 hits. Scored a couple of runs in those first 4 innings. Line towards second base. Kipnis has it. Inning over. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. Tribe down 4. Take a look at the updated American League All-Star voting. Miguel Cabrera has now moved ahead of Eric Hosmer. 7 Royals still lead at their respective positions. How about the fact that Salvador Perez has acquired more than $10 million? How could he be the highest vote getter?
I don't know.
Terrific player, but he's got more votes than Mike Trout?
Yeah. It's hard to believe, isn't it? He's in Kansas City, and Trout's out in Los Angeles. It's hard to believe.
It's kind of been a bit of a mess for the All-Star game this year. I mean, Major League Baseball had to retract some votes.
Only 60 million. Just a few.
Just a few.
Yeah, right. So Chamberlain coming on for the 25th time. He's going to get Brantley, pinch hitter Murphy on deck, and then Santana. It's only the second time he has pitched against the Indians this year.
Michael Brantley taking. It's a little bit high, ball one. Missed inside, 2-0. And a called strike. It's 2-1. Brantley with a fly ball to center field. One away. David Murphy will pinch hit for Ryan Rayburn. We invite you to stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. David Murphy, 6 out of 20 in the pinch hitting role for Cleveland. And Jabba Chamberlain with a strike. Over the outside corner, no, just a little bit off the plate, and it's 1-1. He bounced that one well in front of the plate, and McCann's feeling the effects of that. And trying to shake it off. Doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. That catch him right on the arm?
Yeah, you see him shaking it, and you know those guys. Give me a few seconds, let it sink in, and then they go.
And the 2-1 pitch. A little bit outside. 3 balls and a strike. With Carlos Santana due next. Hit fouled on the right side, out in front of it. That's a nice play.
Yeah, he's getting high fives all the way around.
Now the payoff pitch to Murphy. High fly ball. Deep right center field. Martinez back. He's out of room. It's out of here. David Murphy with a solo home run to make it 7-4. Murphy with his 3rd pinch hit home run of the season.
You know, he's amazing. All he does he just comes up and continues to hit. Whether he gets his one at-bat off the bench like he did tonight. Put up a good at-bat, and he ran into one here, a little slider that Chamberlain left out over the plate. Had a little carry to it. So David Murphy ends up getting his 4th homer. That's his 3rd pinch hit, so 3 of the 4 have come off the bench.
And now Carlos Santana 1 for 3 on the night. As Detroit gets the bullpen busy. How about this? He's already moving up the list in a hurry.
Yes, look at Ted Uhlander, too.
Ted Uhlander, Ron Kittle.
Giambi. Gene Green, don't know that.
Mean Gene Green. That's low, and it's 3 balls, no strikes. Tigers have action in the bullpen. Lefty, righty, both up. High. Oh, he called that a strike.
Well, that's top of the zone if it's a strike.
No.
Well, I agree with you, but that's your token 3-0 call, and let's see what happens there because they needed another base runner. From up and away to down and in.
Yeah, I mean. Payoff pitch. Santana pops one to the second baseman, Kinsler. 2 down. That'll bring up Mike Vilas, who is 0 for 3 on the night. By the way, on those pinch hit home runs, Gene Green, in 1962, he hit 11 home runs for the Indians in 143 at-bats.
Wow. Some kind of year.
Yeah. His career, he played for the Cardinals, the Orioles, the Senators, the Indians, and the Reds. Aviles pulls it foul on the left side.
He's checking out the end of that bat. He hit one right off the end.
No balls, 2 strikes, 2 down, base is empty. And Aviles strikes out to end the inning. David Murphy off the bench with a pinch hit homer. But the Tribe still trails by 3. Well, as we promised her earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Francisco Lindor defensively tonight, diving, making a stop, gets the force at second here. Another diving stop to take a hit away on a line drive.
A couple of very nice plays tonight for the young man.
Offensively, Lindor with a sacrifice bunt. He also had an infield single tonight. But as we go to the ninth, Indians down 3. Scott Atchison will come on to pitch. 5th Indians pitcher to work tonight. Neither starter lasted long tonight. Trevor Bauer went 3 innings plus 5 batters without getting it out in the 4th inning. And Kyle Ryan went just 3 2/3 for Detroit. Hey, Tribe's bullpen, to their credit, they've done their job. They have not allowed a run. In fact, they've only given up 2 hits.
Well, Manship came in and he did what you had to do. You put zeros on the board for 3 innings, 25 pitches, 20 strikes. You know, you held them down. There were 7 runs early, and the only way you have a chance to come back is if you can put zeros on the board, and the bullpen has done that.
Brian Shaw and Ryan Webb followed with a scoreless inning each after Manship went 3 scoreless. Now Atchison here in the 9th. Hanger fouled right back by Cespedes. Now the 1-2 pitch. Line to right center, a base hit. Tigers get their leadoff man aboard. Cespedes started the game in the 1st inning. He had an a 2-run triple originally. It was overruled to an RBI double. And a solo homer in the 3rd, a sac fly in the 4th. He was plunked by a pitch in the 7th. Now a single here in the 9th.
Yeah, good night, huh?
J.D. Martinez is 0 for 3. He was intentionally walked back in the 1st. Swung out a miss, got him to chase. Bounced that one in there. Another ball in the dirt.
Takes it out to a full count now.
And he got a piece of that to stay alive. High pop, right field. Moss makes the catch. Pat O'Brien Chevrolet play of the game. Victor Martinez broke it open with a 2-run single in the 4th. Right after the Indians had tied the game at 3. The Tigers came right back and ripped off 4 in the 4th. And for all intents and purposes, that has been the ball game.
Yeah, it was a game of response right there. After the Indians tied it in the 3rd, Detroit came right back. Tough night for Trevor Bauer.
That's hit pretty well to deep center. Brantley back on the move, won't get it. That hops over the fence for a ground rule double.
That's a break there.
Cespedes will have to go back to 3rd.
That's a break there. It gets up and over the fence. Hits on the track, I think. But McCann hit it a ton to right center field. For McCann, that's going to be his 10th double. 2nd and 3rd now. Got a ball down and in. He stayed on it and goes the other way. Watch this ball shoot into the seats. So to Detroit now with a chance to add on.
Andrew Romine is 1 for 4 tonight. Doubled and scored back in the 2nd. Indians will bring the infield in. Up high, ball 1. That'll even the count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Fouled back. Second and 3rd for Detroit with 1 out here in the 9th inning. And a foul out of play. Phillies up 11-6 on the Yankees in New York in the 9th. Toronto 8-5 over Tampa in the 9th. Minnesota 11-2 over the White Sox in the 7th. Kansas City leads Seattle 2-1 there in the 2nd out at Safeco. Pop to left. Aviles is there. Cespedes will tag. He'll come home. Aviles' throw is... So he's going to be safe at the plate. The throw was there, but it took a kind of a funny hop on Perez. He was trying to grab it and quickly get the tag down, and it skipped by him. They'll appeal at 3rd, but they said he did tag in plenty of time.
I was watching him. He's fine. He's fine. He comes in. That ball took a hop up, and it's a tough play to hold on to that ball and try and tag the guy at the same time. You've got the equipment on. He just never caught it cleanly. If he does, he might have had a chance at him. That was not a bad throw by Aviles.
Every time the Indians, well, they've only scored twice tonight, but when they have, the Tigers have come right back and answered. 8-4 Detroit. Iglesias taking a strike. He's 2 for 4 on the night.
And another game for the Tigers getting 8 runs against the Indians.
Yep. This is the 10th game of the year. And?
6 times. At least 8 runs. One time there was 9, and 4 or 5 times was 8.
Fouled right back. To right field. Kipnis goes out, makes the catch. Tigers get a run in the ninth, lead at 8-4. Last chance for the Indians coming up. Looking back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Miguel Cabrera, they held him in check, so to speak. He only had 2 singles. They walked him a couple of times, once with the bases loaded to drive in a run. He scored one.
Did hit into a double play tonight.
He did that as well, but Yoenis Cespedes drove in 3. And it was the 4th inning was really the difference tonight. Trevor Bauer, he didn't have it tonight. He struggled. And
well, you give up 8 runs, 13 hits. It's tough to win a ball game.
Joaquin Soria to pitch the 9th. Brandon Moss takes low, ball 1. Moss is 0 for 3. Sky high pop. Kinsler grabs it. 1 away. Giovanni Urshela walked and scored in the 3rd. Singled sharply to left in the 4th. Reached on an error in the 7th. Fastball away, ball 1. Popped foul. Miguel Cabrera over towards the seats, but couldn't get to it. And the count is 2-1. on a play. 2-2. You know, I was looking at the names of the guys who did what J.D. Martinez did yesterday in New York, the 3 home runs against the Yankees in New York. There's only 7 players that have done it in addition to Martinez. Geronimo Baroa in 96.
Okay.
Bo Jackson in 1990. Your guy Lee Lacy in 1986.
Lee Lacy. Liner
to short, caught by Iglesias, 2 down. Pat Mullen in 1949 did it for Detroit. And then Pat Seary in 1945 did it for the Indians at Yankee Stadium in a 16-4 Cleveland win over the Bronx Bombers. And Carl Reynolds was the first to do it in 1930 for the White Sox. Pretty interesting list of names there.
Yeah, if you do it, that's the place you want to do it, in the Big Apple.
Perez with a long fly ball, deep right field. This might go. Goodbye. Roberto Perez. His 5th home run of the year, and Rick, both of his hits tonight have come by going the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's an 8-5 ball game with 2 down on the bottom of the 9th.
He just got a fastball, and he just sliced it the other way, put a good swing on it. Gives the Indians their 5th run.
Flared toward third, foul. Kipnis gets aboard. Lindor would be next. Painted the outside corner, and a count 1-2. 15,746 here tonight. Ground ball right at the shortstop, Iglesias. He'll flip it over. And the Tigers beat the Indians for the 8th time in 10 meetings this year. The final tonight, Detroit 8, Cleveland 5. Tigers go to 36-34. The Indians fall to 32-37. Jason Kipnis had 2 more hits, extending his overall hitting streak to 17 games, 26 in a row here at home. He drove in 2 back in the 3rd that tied it for the Indians at 3 apiece, but they quickly fell behind after that, and they just too big of a hole to climb out of after that.
Yeah, it was. It didn't start out very well. They scored in the first 4 innings. Indians were able to come back and tie it in the 3rd, but boy, in the 4th they took advantage, and they just never stopped tonight. So it was just a tough night all the way around.
And the Indians have dropped a series opener at home for the 12th time in 13 series this year. So we'll see if they can bounce back tomorrow night. And we'll have it for you at 7 o'clock right here on Sports Time Ohio. For Rick Manning and Andre Knott, I'm Matt Underwood. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's, right after this.